cities where home prices have already dropped up to 40% from their peak. And we're starting right now with number 10. Number 10 is Oakland. Oakland sits right across the bay from San Francisco, and for years, it was the almost San Francisco deal for Bay Area buyers. During the pandemic, people paid huge prices to live close to the city without having to pay San Francisco money. Now that remote work is normal, that premium makes less sense. Some buyers who used to choose Oakland are now leaving the Bay Area completely and picking cheaper cities or even other states instead. The result is a sharp reset in parts of the market. Condos and smaller homes that sold for eye-popping prices a few years ago are now sitting on the market with big price cuts. In some downtown condo buildings, units that once sold at the top of the market are now listed far lower, and they still are not moving. Add concerns about crime, higher insurance costs, and steep property taxes, and the math that made sense in 2022 no longer works for many buyers in 2026. Number 9 is Vallejo. Vallejo was sold for years as the affordable Bay Area backdoor, a ferry to San Francisco, a freeway to Oakland, and cheaper homes than the big-name cities. That pitch worked while people felt they had to be in the office 5 days a week. During the pandemic, demand spiked. Out-of-area buyers and investors rushed in, and prices in some neighborhoods shot far above what local incomes could support. Now that the market has cooled, the hangover is here. Some homes that sold near the peak are back on the market with deep price cuts and are sitting for long days with no offers. Higher insurance and property tax bills add more weight to every monthly payment. Many buyers consider the full cost and either wait for better deals or choose a different city. Vallejo is still cheaper than San Francisco on paper, but the gap is not always big enough for people to accept the longer commute and the extra risk. Number 8 is Antioch. Antioch sits on the far edge of the East Bay, and for a long time it was the overflow option. If you were priced out of cities closer to the bay, you moved east to get more house and more yard for your money. That trade-off made sense when gas was cheaper and daily commuting was the norm. During the boom, investors, flippers, and Bay Area workers all chased the same limited supply. Prices in some Antioch neighborhoods climbed far beyond what local wages could comfortably support. Then interest rates rose, remote work rules tightened, and many of those outside buyers pulled back or left. Now, it is common to see listings with several price cuts before anyone makes an offer. Some parts of the city are seeing steep drops from peak prices, and buyers have learned that the longer they wait, the better the deal might get. Number 7 is Oroville. Oroville sits in the Sierra Nevada foothills north of Sacramento and was once known for its open space and lower prices. That changed after major wildfires in the region shifted people and insurance risk around. As displaced buyers looked for a place to go, demand in Oroville drove prices up faster than usual. But that extra demand did not last forever, and the insurance story kept getting worse. In many high-risk fire areas, home insurance became far more expensive or hard to get at all. Some owners had to move on to California's last resort insurance plan with much higher premiums. Buyers now look at a home in Oroville and see not just the price, but also a big yearly insurance bill and a higher risk. That has pulled demand way down and forced sellers in some neighborhoods to cut prices sharply, sometimes by as much as that 40% drop from the top. Number 6 is San Bernardino. San Bernardino, in the Inland Empire east of Los Angeles, was long marketed as the budget-friendly option for people priced out of LA. During the pandemic, that message went into overdrive. Cheap money, remote work, and investor interest pushed prices higher across the city. When interest rates climbed and remote work cooled off, the Inland Empire stopped being the hot story and became one of the weakest parts of the state. In San Bernardino, some neighborhoods now show big price cuts from the peak as buyers step back and listings start to pile up. The city's past bankruptcy and ongoing concerns about crime and city services still shape how out-of-area buyers see it. Add in rising insurance costs in wildfire-prone areas, and many buyers decide that the value play is not worth the trade-offs at the old prices. Number 5 is Hesperia. Hesperia is a high desert city north of San Bernardino And during the pandemic, it turned into a boomtown almost overnight. People working in Los Angeles and the Inland Empire realized they could trade a small apartment near the coast for a full house in the desert. As long as they went into the office once a week, that long drive felt worth it. Demand exploded. Prices in some Hesperia neighborhoods soared as remote workers, investors, and flippers all chased limited inventory. But when companies pulled people back to the office more often, that 2-hour commute stopped feeling like a clever hack and started feeling impossible. Many of the buyers who drove prices up were the first ones to leave. Now, with higher insurance costs in fire risk zones and slower demand, some of the hardest hit areas of Hesperia are seeing price drops approaching the 40% mark from the peak. Number 4 is Victorville. Victorville sits right next to Hesperia, and their housing stories are almost identical except for one twist. Victorville had even more speculative money. When remote workers and LA overflow buyers poured into the high desert, flippers and landlords followed in force. They bought distressed homes, renovated them quickly, and listed them at prices that assumed the boom would keep going. They also bought land and new homes, betting that demand would stay high for years. Then the demand pipeline broke. Remote work reversed, interest rates climbed, and suddenly there were more investor houses than real buyers. In some Victorville neighborhoods, listings have sat for months with 3, 4, or even more price cuts. Insurance and taxes still have to be paid, but the sky-high asking prices do not. Number 3 is Merced. Merced, in the Central Valley, tried to build a steady story around the University of California campus that opened there. For years, that brought slow, stable demand from students, staff, and local families. Home prices rose gradually and remained largely in line with the local economy. The pandemic changed that balance fast. Bay Area tech workers discovered they could live in Merced, drive into the office once or twice a week, and still keep their jobs. Investors and out-of-area buyers showed up, and some neighborhoods saw prices jump into ranges that had never existed there before. When the remote work wave faded and those buyers left, Merced was left with homes priced for Bay Area money in a city that still runs on Central Valley paychecks. Now, higher insurance costs in nearby fire risk areas and long days on market have cut prices back sharply from those peaks. Number 2 is El Cajon. El Cajon sits inland from San Diego and has long been the more affordable alternative to the coast. You still get the weather and access to the city, just without the oceanfront price tag. That story pulled in a lot of buyers during the pandemic. But as money poured into El Cajon, prices in some neighborhoods climbed far past what local incomes could support. Coastal San Diego has held most of its value, but East County has taken a harder hit. In El Cajon, higher insurance costs in hillside and fire-prone neighborhoods add another layer of cost to each home. Property taxes on top of that make the monthly payment even tougher. In the zip codes that overheated the most, cuts from peak prices have grown large enough to surprise anyone who thought Barstow sits in the Mojave Desert between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and it is where every pressure point from this list comes together. It is remote, extremely hot in summer, and carries high fire and climate risks. The local economy is thin, relying on a military base, some logistics jobs, and highway traffic. During the pandemic, investors bet that LA overflow would reach Barstow, pushing prices far above what the local job market could support. When remote work reversed and big city buyers left, demand collapsed. Now, many homes are expensive to insure, costly to cool, and sit on the market for months with repeated price cuts, with some areas seeing drops near 40% from the peak. So what does this mean if you own or want to buy in one of these cities? Statewide record-high headlines are not the whole story. Under those averages, you have local markets like Oakland, Vallejo, Hesperia, and Barstow, where prices have already taken a big cut, and buyers have more power. If you are a buyer, these are places where patient, well-qualified offers below asking can actually work. If you are a seller, waiting for 2022 pricing to come back soon may not be realistic. Housing markets move in cycles. They boom, they correct, and over time, they usually find a new balance that matches the real local economy, not the hype. If you want more no-hype breakdowns of what is really happening in California housing, subscribe to Housing IQ.